Let's just make sure. Look at that. Lesson 6, long method is kind of the AC method that I called it. And the AC method will always work. So if you're using the AC method, it'll work all of the time. There's just a faster way to do it. If there's no number in front of your first term, if it's just a 1, then there's a faster way. Perfect square trinomials. Shouldn't be terrible. You should be okay there. These are all difference of squares. Sines, 2 brackets must be factored completely. You guys should be good at those now. And then final, the integers for k, and then answer. So we should be good. We're done everything in this learning guide now. There's a couple questions. Can you look at number 8 on page 12 of the learning guide? When factoring messy trinomials, you need to guess and check all of the factors of each term in order to. B, if the second term in a trinomial is negative, the third term is positive, the third term is a product of the 2 numbers. If the second term in a trinomial is negative and the third term is negative, such as this, the third term is the product of. That's just all really confusing to me. If you use the AC method, it'll work all of the time. So I'm not sure what those blanks are, to be honest, and I have a feeling it's just has to do with how the actual course is teaching this stuff, the methods that they're showing, which could be different than mine. I haven't watched all of the kind of built-in tutorials into the course, and this could be one of those examples where they're teaching something different. So I'm not sure what they're getting at without looking at the answer. It isn't obvious to me, so we can just forget about number 8. I don't see any reason why we'd need to differentiate between those two. Sorry about that. I should have probably seen that beforehand. The tutorials all work with the learning guide, so explains it all in there. Yeah, there's lots of different ways to teach these things, and that's why I do my thing. And it's kind of, if I look at how they're doing it in the questions in the learning guide, then I'm kind of maybe taking away another method for you guys to look at. So like I say, most of the questions that we do in Math 10, there's many, many ways to do them. And if you have a way that's different than mine, but it gets you to the right place, then that's fine. My opinion, this method, the AC way we're doing these, is kind of a way that works for all factoring questions. So instead of teaching a different way for each different type and trying to identify if it has a negative or a positive and a negative, just a method that works for everything kind of makes more sense to me. So that's how I choose to teach it. If you find it easier to do it that other way, however that question 8 is being done, then by all means, go ahead and do it. It just seems like more stuff to remember for me, so I don't like to have to remember any more than I need to. Page 10, 3B, and page 12, number 7. 10. Uh, 10, 3B. I'm going to rewrite it up top here. 27x squared y cubed plus 9x squared y squared minus 18x cubed y squared. All right. The first step of any factoring question is asking, are there any common factors? And in this case, I'm thinking we're going to probably have a 3 and anything bigger than 3? What about 9? 9? Can we pull it a 9? Sure, let's pull it a 9. That's probably bigger than a 3. I have an x squared, I have an x squared, and an x cubed, so I'm going to pull it an x squared. I have a y cubed, a y squared, and a y squared, so I'm going to pull it a y squared. All right, so 9 divided by 27 is going to give me 3. I pulled out an x squared, leaves me with y. And then my middle term, I'm going to have a 1, 9x squared y squared, and then I'm going to have minus 2x. Just trying to think if there's anything else I can do to factor this any further. 9 times 3 is 27, 9 times 1 is 9, 9 times 2 is 18. X squared times 1 is x squared, y cubed, x squared, y squared, 2x. Unless I'm missing something, I'm thinking that's as far as you can go with that guy. I don't have anything in here that's like ax squared plus bx plus c, anything in the form of these trinomials we've been factoring so far. So that's as far as that guy goes, as far as I know. So you're done there. There's nothing we can do to further factor that. I don't have an x squared, I don't have an x, and then a nothing. Even if I rearrange the terms inside the bracket here, I never end up with something that has x squared or y squared or a squared, and then a y, and then just a number. So that's as far as that guy goes. Page 12, number 7. Find all the integers for k which the following trinomials can be factored. These questions are really popular to ask on a test because they essentially can test your ability to factor without you having like 2 terms at the end to be able to expand and check. So the reason these questions are included is because if you can solve them, then you can factor. We know you can factor. One really kind of interesting thing about multiple choice tests like the Math10 Provincial is that all the answers are there. In a lot of questions, you can work backwards. Because if we know factoring and expanding are opposites of one another, one is working one way, the other is kind of working back, then if we have a factoring question and we just give you the answers, like 2 brackets like we have here, you can just multiply those out and then see which one leads you to the question you started with. So you might have to do 4 times as much work, but you can essentially learn how to factor without knowing how to factor at all. If you can expand, if you can FOIL 2 binomials to get back to the question, then you can probably figure out how to do these types of questions. In this example, it doesn't work. I have these 2 numbers, and this is the AC method. Because there's something in front of my squared term, I have to do kind of the long method. So I multiply a and c, and I get 6 for a, and -3 gives me -18. So I need to know all the factors of -18. So for the integers k, which of the following can be factored? All right, so what are my factors of 18? Well, I know I have 6 and 3. I have 18 times 1, and I have 1 times -18, so just switching my negative sign. What else do I have? I'll just continue up here. I have 6 and 3, and then 6 and 3 with my negative. I have 9 and 2, and I have 9 and 2. Am I missing any factors of 18? 18, 1, 6, 3, 9, 2. I'm thinking that's it. So what I'm going to have to do is add each of these, because the middle term is the one normally we say multiply to this. So multiply to 18, add to, in this case, k. I don't know what k is, so it's asking me what are all the things it could add to. So I have -18 plus 1, that gives me -17. If I have 18 plus -1, that gives me +17. So it could be -17, it would be factorable. It could be +17, it could be factorable. If I have -6 plus 3, it gives me -3. If I have 6 plus negative 3, that gives me positive 3. So positive 3, negative 3, that could factor those as well. Negative 9 plus 2 is negative 7, and 9 plus negative 2 is positive 7. So the things that will allow this to be factored are negative 17, 17, negative 3, 3, negative 7, and 7. All of those things, if k was any one of those, we could factor it. If k was any number that wasn't one of these ones in the circle here, that would not be factorable. You just can't do it. Ava, can you find the difference of squares with trinomials? When you have a trinomial, always just do the AC method, and then it sometimes works out that when you've done the AC method with your trinomial, because you end up with the two brackets, that one of those might have a difference of squares in it. Difference of squares only exists with two terms. It must be a binomial, and it has to have a negative sign in the middle. So if you get a big list of numbers, and like on a test or something, a big list of questions says just factor, the giveaway for the difference of squares types questions is, if we look at this, it says factor these, there's three terms, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. When you get down to something like this, it's asking you to factor, there's two terms. So they're going to be kind of obvious when you get into these types of questions that they're going to end up being a difference of squares because there's only going to be two terms. So that's kind of the giveaway in the factoring section. One tricky thing that happens with factoring is that you could get a big long list of questions that just say factor, and one of the questions could look like something we did from the beginning stuff. And what I mean by that is, if we just had a question like, that's not factoring yet, we start factoring in lesson 4, yes. Maybe even lesson 3, let's see if we have any stuff in here, like I'm trying to explain, expanding, expand, expand. Nope, lesson 4. So you could get a question like this, and it's kind of like one we just did, where you're asked to factor, and then you just have to figure out what's common to all the terms. You don't have to split up the middle term or anything like that. This isn't a factorable trinomial type thing. So factoring gets confusing because sometimes you're going to have a question that is a trinomial that factors nicely. Sometimes you're going to have a question that looks like these difference of squares. Sometimes you're going to end up with a question that looks like these, the trinomials. And some of these just simply won't factor, and that's kind of why it gets hard. As long as you can pull out any common terms, that is factoring. So the test, that's the last section for this unit. This is lesson 7, difference of squares here. So learning guide Dropbox is right here. That's your submission of your learning guide. When are we going to write the test? I will spend all day tomorrow, like an hour. Just have a short class tomorrow. I'll spend an hour going through any questions you might have on anything, factoring, anything unit 4 related. And then on Wednesday, you guys have opportunity to come in for some help. I think Mrs. Wood put it on the main page here. Right here. No. There you go. So if you need any extra help, you're confused, anything like that, you can come in on Wednesday from 1 to 3, bring your learning guides, quizzes, whatever you want. I'll be here, and sometimes Mrs. McGarvey's here to offer you guys some help as well. So if we have all of next day for review, an hour of review, any questions you have, I'd be happy to do them. If you want to come in on Wednesday and get some help with this stuff, because I know it can be a bit challenging, from 1 to 3, a couple hours, just bring some work, you can have that. And then maybe if you're ready to write it on Wednesday afternoon, or Thursday at the latest. I don't, unfortunately, some of us have been kind of keeping a slower pace, and I don't want you guys to fall behind, because if you fall behind now, there's no time to sort of catch up moving forward. We end up just running out of time, and then everybody writes the provincial, and if you're not ready, you're not ready. So the end of the course is kind of set in stone. We're kind of flexible along the way, but once you kind of get behind, especially in the second term here, the second half of math, it's going to be harder and harder to catch up, and you run out of time. There's no time to catch up at the end. I just sat down last week and looked at all of the classes. So I set out a day for each lesson and then a review before each test. And it works out that we have about a week and a bit, maybe like 10, I guess 8 days, because we only work 4 days a week. So 8 days at the end of the course for things like provincial exam review, things like that. So we do have a bit of time built in, but I want you guys to use that time to learn how to write a provincial exam. I spend a lot of time going through how to write and things like that. Got your message, Abby. If you want to write it today or tomorrow, that's fine. You can write early, but writing late Wednesday would be my hope, that everyone would have it done on Wednesday. So I'll say that. Taylor wants to know what the next unit is. I think I actually have it. It'll be kind of hard to see here, if I can get it up. Just because it's not open yet, so it'll just be kind of blurred out. But the next unit's on functions and graphing. So it actually is, in my opinion, easier than the stuff we've been doing. Yeah, you won't be able to see that very well. It's kind of really hard for me to see even. It's relations and functions, it's graphing, and the questions are easier, and it's, I want to say a lot of common sense, but I hesitate to use the word common sense. But generally speaking, students do a lot better on Unit 5 than they would on Unit 4. Unit 4 is hard, just like Unit 2 was hard. Some get easy, some get hard. So moving forward, the stuff's a little bit kind of easier than what we've been doing, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to leave it there. I would love it if you guys came with tons of questions. No, we're going to start that on Wednesday's class, Ava. So don't worry about it. I won't even unlock it until tomorrow, so you guys can have a chance to print it off before we begin. So we'll leave it there. Thanks, guys. Come with questions next day. And Wednesday, if you need help from 1 to 3, I'll be here in my office. And take care.